What is up, everybody? It is January 26th, 2023, the fourth episode of our Vendetta Sports Daily videos. So I'm Jerry Walker, and alongside me is Will Scott. Will, before we get into anything, how you doing today?
Great. Had to get up at 8:50 for class, but I've recovered. I'm feeling good. Had a little nap, and I'm ready to get talking about some football. I'm excited.
Oh yeah, naps, honestly, through college are the way to do it. They were
Yeah,
they
yeah,
were huge for me at times. It's
yeah,
like you just get
yeah.
tired from learning too much, I guess. But
Well, it's also for some reason they decided to put all my classes early in the morning, and then we've got the rest of the day. I guess to do journalism stuff, but um, it can be annoying at times. I'm not used to waking. I'm not. My body isn't meant to be waking up that early, but.
no, I get that. But we'll get into kind of like this stuff. So you've relatively new to Vendetta. You're interning this semester. What has it been like for you so far? What are your thoughts?
No, I'm excited. So this was a type of journalism I've never done before. I'd never done journalism before I started my masters, but what we've been doing so far is very reporting focused. I've got a beat high school. I go to them. I was there last night to watch their football game. So that's been the sort of journalism I've been focusing on. Writing about the news, like the Premier League, like something with a bit more stakes in high school football, has been it's been really exciting. Like being able to do that. I like the freedom we have. There's like I always feel like there's something I can do because I've been doing the news mostly, but I tried my hand at a bit more of an opinion piece last night with the Super League. I didn't even really intend. I don't know if Trey intended that to be like the sort of length it was, but I just sort of went with it. I was like, I find it really interesting. I started really looking into the history of the Premier League and how it was in a very ways the way the Premier League was created was very similar to how the Super League was. They wanted it to be created. The sense it was done in secrecy, was these big clubs doing it behind everyone's back. And I really enjoyed that, and it really so the sort of stuff being able to create has been really enjoyable. I'm excited to do the audio stuff as well. I love talking, um, so I'm excited for that aspect. I really enjoy the freedom I've got. It's been fun. I've enjoyed my first few weeks.
Yeah, glad to hear that. And I mean, see, that's kind of something that I've noticed as well since I've been here is there is that freedom. Like obviously Trey wants us to cover the news, which I think we're starting to do. I know I'm starting to try and get a little better on that. But outside of that, do like some opinion pieces. Try and do some of those clickbaity, not necessarily clickbait titles, but
Yeah,
anything that you think is interesting to yourself or to others.
yeah,
Like I'm currently working on a preview for the X Games, which I just like skiing and snowboarding, so I go
yeah,
with that. But I mean, your Super League piece has been solid, and what I've seen of your work, it's kind of you're doing what you need to do to
yeah,
get through here. So I think it's been a good fit so far. And I mean,
yeah.
you definitely seem quite knowledgeable, I'd say, on the Premier League. So have
It's
a
all
little bit
football
of
twisted.
experience there. Yeah.
Yeah, I just try. I've really made a commitment this year. Like I followed the football casually. I obviously I have subscriptions to the Athletic. I read ESPN, BBC Sport, but I was never like. I really made a commitment this year to try because I'd only watched Man United games before that, and maybe like Man City, Liverpool, or like a North London derby. I've been trying to get better at just
Mm.
knowing more about because I think that's one of the things I really want to gain from this internship and when I'm older and hopefully a football journalist is being knowledgeable and knowing what I'm talking about. I don't
Yeah.
want to be like Graham Souness talking nonsense on Sky Sports every week.
Yeah, you don't want to just know those one or two teams, or in England, I guess it's the big six for
Yeah,
football, but you
yeah,
kind of need to know a little bit of everything. You need to have a little bit of that background into the
yeah,
championship, knowing who might be promoted, relegated. And
yeah.
that's a little bit along the lines of something I will get into a little bit. I have a question on, but
Okay.
continuing with the Vendetta, do you have any other goals for this internship or anything?
I don't, I just want to improve as a writer because I feel like I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist, but for these things, for things I really care about, I want it to be really good. So I think maybe I spend longer on the news than I need to. I'm like
Mm.
searching up stuff like, is this right? I really want it to be really good, and I get annoyed at myself if I feel, oh, I could have said this at the time. So I really want to get to this place where I'm consistently happy with the piece I'm creating and create some really good content. Um, I enjoy doing the news, but I also want to try doing some more opinion pieces. Now I feel more comfortable with the system and a bit comfortable in the company. I really want to try like previewing some big games. That sort of stuff I really want to get into. I think that's my goal is to feel comfortable doing that at the end of the semester and get good feedback for that sort of stuff.
Hell yeah. I mean, that's all great stuff to be doing. And like, I would say do as many opinion pieces as you can, but depending on the topics, like, I don't see why you wouldn't be able to. And I think it's a good way to get your own voice out. And even more so, like you're writing about stuff that interests you more when it's opinion than necessarily
Yeah.
the news. Because news is kind of like this happened, this happened, this happened. Whereas opinions, you can kind of go off on your tangents and specify the specific
Yeah.
stuff you really like. So, but,
Just you wait till Man United versus Leeds. I'll have a few opinion pieces
oh,
in the
geez.
pipeline for that.
Oh yeah, the best thing is we play as of now. It looks like it's twice in the
That
span
was
of what
such a
5 days,
bizarre. I don't
which
know what.
I,
I saw someone tweet like the Premier League's getting confused. I think it's like the NBA where they're doing like a West Conference tour or something like that. It's sort of, when are we playing you lot? Actually, I can't
I
remember.
think it's the February 12th and the 16th, I believe, or
It's
18th.
8th and the 12th. Yeah,
8th
right,
and the
back to
12th.
back.
Yeah,
It's
I
because of the fucking Queen's funeral. It's like it
yeah,
fucked everything up.
as I was talking with my dad about it seems like Man U's in need of 6 points at the moment, so they just
Oh,
decided to move us around
oh
and
yeah.
get us back to back matches.
We always do seem to do. I guess it was Beelzebub we did particularly. I remember Scott
Oh
McTominay
god,
would always turn up
oh
for those games.
yeah,
Um,
Scott.
but we'll see. We'll see. Away from your at Elland Road, it could be a tricky one. We'll see. Also, our fixtures are going to be brutal. I think we've got 10 games in like 32 days.
Yeah,
We're playing Barcelona wedged. I think you guys are wedged in between our Barcelona games. We've got Carabao Cup final, so you might be able to catch us napping.
yeah, because as of now, it looks like you play the 28th against Reading, then you play the 1st, the 4th, the 8th, the 12th. So that's more or less 4 matches in the first 12 days of February. And then Barcelona twice and Leicester in between them. So,
Yeah. And that Barcelona game is going to be sort of exhausting, like,
yeah.
given the way they sort of the intensity which they play at. It's going to be,
Especially considering that first one is in Spain. But
yeah. We might have to sack off the Carabao Cup. We will have
yeah.
to see.
I mean, you are playing, isn't that what you're playing Forest in? So,
Yeah, no, the second leg will be fine. It's just I know we're gonna have to play
oh, in the
Newcastle,
yeah.
and it's either gonna be a lucky Marcus Rashford goal or we're going to penalties, and I'm gonna get flashbacks to the Europa League final. That was one of the worst nights of
Oh,
my
yeah. What?
life.
That was
It
what?
was me on my
Villarreal? Was
own.
it Villarreal or Valencia?
It was Villarreal,
Villarreal,
and I
yeah.
went to watch it at my housemate's friend's house. It was my last year of university, like undergrad, and I was just surrounded by people who did not want Manchester United to win. They didn't care about Villarreal, mind you. It was about 10 of them, and they all hated Man United, and not fun.
You don't cheer for the team to win; you cheer for another team to lose, which I find myself doing probably more than I should. But
No,
I remember watching that Villarreal penalty thing. I was in Hawaii waiting outside an ER because someone we were with needed like 15 stitches on their foot. So, but at least there was something fun to watch with it. But
it was like this pathetic penalty shootout. Apparently, I remember reading after the time, David De Gea had like something written down saying where each one likes to shoot, and he completely ignored it.
And wasn't he the only one who missed?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
only one who missed.
I will say, from a neutral, if you're a neutral in that one, that's a fun penalty shootout to watch. But yeah, I couldn't imagine the stress.
Penalty shootouts just have not gone well for me in the past few years.
Oh,
not a fan of them.
No, at least England beat Colombia, and it thought that would have ended our misery, but then it
nearly fucked that one up as well.
Yeah,
nearly fucked it up. But
that was penalties in England. Gotta love it. Always a good time. But we'll get back to talking a little bit Vendetta. If you've done mostly football stuff, is there anything else you're like thinking about trying out? Because I know you've spoken a little bit about NFL, NBA, some other stuff.
So I like the NFL and NBA, but I don't think I read a lot about the NFL in particular, not as much about the NBA. I sort of casually follow that. I feel like my voice is just. I prefer writing about football. I like viewing the NFL as a casual fan. I did quite like when I was considering getting into sports journalism. I sort of wrote about my fantasy football team a bit, like 2021 or 2020. It was one of the 2 years. I think it was 2021. And I enjoyed that. So I think I wouldn't mind doing some fantasy content if I was to do the NFL. I really enjoyed that, but obviously I missed the boat on that. But I think if I was ever to do NFL content, I'd be particularly interested in that. And in terms of gaming, I play a lot of Football Manager, and it just feels like that would be quite a good match. But at the same time, as anyone who's played Football Manager knows, watching a stream of someone playing Football Manager is very uninteresting because there's just a lot of clicking through boxes and not a huge amount happening. So if I was to do some content, it'd probably have to be like an article where I screenshot stuff, or I don't know, maybe an edited YouTube video or something like that. But streaming Football Manager is quite an ordeal.
Oh, I can believe it. I've played it a bit, but it was more when I'd be over in England and my cousin would be playing it, and I just see him like I follow along enough with it to know what's happening, but it's just clicking, 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 and moving on. And that's something that's like not really big here is Football Manager, which I don't really know anyone who plays it here, but huge in England, I assume.
Yeah, no, and Germany apparently. Apparently, those are the two biggest. A lot of the football players play it as well. Here's a fun fact for you: Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got into management because he played Football Manager.
I feel like there was a story of, I want to say it was like some Scottish or English guy years, because Football Manager's been around for quite a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's I think Championship Manager came out in 1997.
Okay, yeah. So I think it was one of those early games. Some English or Scottish guy found this dude named Lionel Messi in some Argentinian league, and I think it was either Messi or some other guy who became a huge star. And he's like, "Yo, team, say it was something like Reading or some lower end team. You need to go and buy this kid. He's going to be the future because of his football manager. This is all Football Manager." Ended up being right in that instinct, but it's crazy how much that actually is used by players, coaches, scouts, just to see what happens. Yeah.
They invest so much in that scouting system. It's unbelievable. I really enjoy it. I think the other big thing that came out of Football Manager is, I think Ben Brereton Diaz, the guy who plays for Blackburn in the Championship,
the Chilean guy,
found out that he was Chilean because of Football Manager.
Yeah,
they were scrolling through and they found out he was eligible. I think maybe I'm thinking of someone else.
I'm pretty sure that sounds right. It's
just unbelievable story.
It's crazy what they can find there. And I think you mentioned a little bit, you tried doing an MLS team in Football Manager.
That was hard. If the MLS, the more I've been reading about it the past like few weeks, the more I feel like actually quite interested by it, because I do enjoy the American system, the draft and stuff like that. I'm not sure how well it works with football, but it is kind of interesting to see it in a way, and I've been reading a bit more about it. It seems kind of interesting. I'm trying to figure out like the designated money, the trading of the international spots. It's also like arcane and like. And it just doesn't translate well to Football Manager, unfortunately. And I tried my best. Even when I remember asking my friend, like, "Have you done an MLS save?" He said, "Mate, don't try it. There's no point." And I tried it. It's just, wasn't. I was looking for in Football Manager. What I like doing, and a lot of people like doing, is taking like a lower league side or a side from a small country. So, for example, back in Football Manager 19, I took a team from Iceland. And we won the Europa League, which is quite fun.
Oh, yeah.
Right now, I'm taking a team from San Marino. We just made the Conference League group stages. And we won a game against a team from Kazakhstan and drew at Shamrock Rovers, but we should have won. So we're getting there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what I've seen with my cousin. He grew up around Dorking, and he was playing Dorking Rovers from, I think, what was it, the 12th league or something, and just trying to get them up to where even – the actual EFL. So that seems like the fun part of it. It's like FIFA. I love playing as some League 2 team and trying to manage them all the way to the Premier League. But do you play much, talking of games, like do you play FIFA much, or is it mostly just Football Manager for you?
So bad at FIFA. My friends used to play it all the time, and they'd ask me if I'd want to play. I was like, I can't play that. I used to play it when I was like 13, 14. I played a bit of Ultimate Team, but I play on my computer now. If I play games these days, I just play Football Manager. It's just you lose so many hours to that game, and like it's just a good way to de-stress after a like long day on the grind.
And clearly, you can still learn stuff about football in the world and learn teams, players, all kinds of stuff. But out of curiosity,
with the Venom. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. Out of curiosity, what MLS side did you choose when you were trying to do an MLS Football Manager?
I think I tried Austin FC because they just got expanded. Yeah. They just got implemented in FM21, so they were like a new expansion side. So I had to wait a bit because I sort of liked the idea of rebuilding with like the first overall pick. Didn't go well. I don't think the first overall pick in the MLS really gives you as much advantage as it does in the NFL or the NBA, unfortunately.
No, it really doesn't. Because I mean, even at the end of the day, I think for the most part, all the big name players who are in there either come from Europe or come up from South America, and it's not
Yeah.
necessarily these collegiate guys. I
Yeah.
know one player who did get drafted first overall by in the MLS, Jack Harrison, who now plays
From
for
Leeds.
Leeds.
Oh
Yep, he was
wow.
drafted first overall by New York City FC. I want to say
Yeah.
like 16 or
Are
17.
they part of the City football group?
Yes, they
Yeah.
are. Yeah,
Okay,
that's why it
that's
was.
why he went to Man City.
Yep,
Okay.
that's why
Okay.
Frank Lampard went over. Or yeah, I guess Frank Lampard did go there, but he wasn't Man City. But it was all that connection
Yeah.
at that time. So that's another thing we could discuss at some point, whether it's this show or a different show.
Yeah.
Fat Frank's out, but continue going
Yeah.
with this. But
We can discuss that later.
yeah, but another one of our topics we've been talking like we've been writing some decent amount of stuff recently. I know I did something on Gareth Bale is now a professional golfer.
Yeah.
So what do you think of that? Because I mean,
I
there's
think
always
I quite like it. It's obvious in the past, like in the twilight of his career, he didn't really give a shit about Real Madrid. Like quite because the Real Madrid fans, there's something really deeply irritating about them. They're so used to success, they'll start booing their team the minute anything goes slightly wrong.
Mhm.
Like booing their like players. They've booed pretty much every legend they've ever had. You got so much crap from them. I loved it. It was like a little middle finger to them. Like, yeah, I'm only playing these days so I can get paid to play golf. The only team he cared about was Wales. That was
Yeah,
it.
Wales,
And
Golf,
unfortunately,
Madrid in that order.
yeah, exactly. I love that. I absolutely love that. And then apparently, according to John Rahm, he's actually quite good. So I wish him all the best.
Yeah.
I it was a shame how his career went after those first few seasons at Madrid. Um, yeah, he's kind of got ruined by injuries, but
Yeah, it was
I enjoyed
unfortunate.
that little Euros run was fantastic. Unfortunately, his World Cup run was pretty shit, but
Yeah, I mean, I think that was kind of to be expected. At least
yeah,
I did think Wales were going to get out of the group instead of the
yeah,
U.S., but I mean, he wasn't even that. He wasn't great in the MLS. He did
yeah.
score a huge goal in the MLS Cup to send it to
I remember.
penalties.
Yeah,
That was something. It was like the 8th minute or 128th minute, so 8 minutes of stoppage time and extra time, and gets a corner, and I think he heads it home, and LA ends up winning, but it was really an uneventful thing. I kind of thought he would come over and do like what Zlatan did and kind of just tear
mm,
up the MLS, but
yeah.
wasn't to
I
be.
I quite enjoy. So from what I saw, I think he only scored 2 goals, so he really didn't care. There's
Yeah.
something quite enjoyable about seeing like a football player who clearly just doesn't give a shit
Oh,
anymore about
absolutely.
playing for his club and just taking as much money as they can from these wealthy clubs and getting paid to play golf and you know
And
care
like
about
on
his
the beach in LA.
yeah, exactly. Like I
Not
kind
a
of
bad place to
no,
go.
really not. Like especially if you're wealthy.
Yeah.
So fair play to the man. I do think it's sort of people were going a bit overboard when he resigned. Well, not retired, I should say,
Mhm.
with saying he's the greatest British player of all time. I did a bit digging into that earlier, and I'm not convinced.
No,
What are your thoughts?
I would say sure he has the 5 Champions League titles, but that was part of that incredible Real Madrid team where you could throw any kind of left wing, right winger out there for him. And I mean, when it's Ronaldo, Benzema, and Bale up there, you know you're gonna win. And just that whole team was deep, but I don't.
Yeah,
I outside of that, he hasn't really won much. So I
yeah.
don't know if
Like,
he can be considered the
when,
best British player ever.
so I had a little look on Sports Reference because I have nothing better to do in my life. And he only played 2,000 minutes in a La Liga season. His first 2 seasons with Real Madrid were fantastic
Mhm.
from a production standpoint. Um, then after that, and they won 3 leagues, which he didn't play much. And he played 40 games. In the times they won the league title, he played 40 games, scoring. Can't remember. I think it was something like 12 or 13, something like that. Something low. Like it wasn't like a terrible number, but
It
it was
was
like
nothing
not
special.
relevant, nothing special. He only scored 6 knockout stage goals. Obviously, there was a 2018 final where he scored that spectacular goal, and you
That
can't take that away from him. But it
no.
doesn't really feel like, aside from that, those first 2 seasons he was fantastic, but I feel someone like his countryman Ryan Giggs has a far stronger case, or Wayne Rooney, or I just think people went so overboard because he was so fantastic at those in those last seasons at Tottenham and when he first moved to Real Madrid. Injuries did really affect him. He lost like most of the prime of his career. If he hadn't got injured, he'd definitely be in the conversation, but he just didn't play enough to really affect those teams and like take them. Like, sure, he was great, but I don't know. He doesn't move me in that way.
No, I'm with you. I don't quite think he's the guy, the best British player I've ever.
Yeah.
Especially when, like you said, you mentioned Rooney. We also have recently Alan Shearer could be considered possibly better. Then you look back, Bobby Charlton, Bobby Moore, George Best, even. It's all these great players from England, Scotland, Wales that it's hard to put a just single one of them out. I think if I had to, I might lean towards Bobby Moore solely because he was a captain when England won the cup in '66. But even then, that's like you can't go wrong with a couple players.
I think the one I saw was Wayne Rooney. I think again, despite the fact he's a terrible person, I think for me, just because of how much he won, I think Ryan Giggs probably. I think the one thing you have to say about Ryan Giggs is that his Wales career was terrible, and obviously Gareth Bale is the best, just in terms of the national team, is the best Welsh player of all time.
Yeah.
But in terms of longevity and like winning a league, like 20 years between his first, and like he played a pretty vital role in most of those like 13 Premier League wins. I think it has to be him personally. But you could say Rooney, you could say Shearer, you could say Bobby Moore, and I'd be pretty okay with any of those answers.
Yeah, it's kind of any of those. It's hard to go wrong with. The other couple names, just want to throw these out that I was reading about and saw while doing research. Paul Gascoigne, which I thought was a little bit of a stretch.
That is a stretch.
And then David Beckham, which more I think Beckham might have been more for his like off-field stuff and what he brought to and how he changed like all the fashion style and all that for football. But
I think Paul Gascoigne, as fantastic as he was at his peak, was his club career was nothing much of note, and he's been very mythologized by English fans. Like he had some great tournaments, but they've really put him at a level where I saw someone tweeted during the Euros that Raheem Sterling's had a better England career than Paul Gascoigne, and I can't really disagree. And as for David Beckham, I will say, in Beckham's fairness, he was truly a world-class footballer in the late 90s, early 2000s. I think, aside from Michael Owen, he's one of the only English players to like finish on the podium for the Ballon d'Or. I think that was the year United won the treble. He came third or second so he really was an excellent he was like Trent before Trent in a way, and a winger rather than a fullback. And he really was excellent. But again, not convinced if he is the best English player of all time. But he's had some fantastic moments. Yeah. Again, maybe there's an element of him being mythologized a bit, but
exactly, yeah. And like that's kind of what I was more wondering than anything is like, because I don't believe either of those two guys are really the top British players, top English players even, but definitely had something with it. But we'll stay kind of talking a little bit of this English football. But Chelsea, they've spent, because I've seen you write a bit of their signings. Do you think they're going over the top? Do you think it's just too many signings, too much money just thrown at random places?
I do think I'm starting to get the sense there seems to be more direction. I think their summer transfers were really just throwing stuff at a wall. Like Raheem Sterling's a fantastic player, but he hasn't really took off. Koulibaly has been okay, but it did seem a bit sort of like scattershot. Now I'm getting more of a sense that they're really trying to sign these young players and like get a team for the long haul and maybe more what Potter likes. Like again, the Cucurella signing felt a bit more like despite City, but the Mudryk signing, the Gusto signing I do really like. The Badiashile signing I really like. He's 21? It's like 40 million, 50 million. That's fantastic value.
Yeah.
I can see what they're trying to do. I saw some tweet as well. Like, I don't think this is true. Bowley's been given a year to go crazy, play Football Manager real life. Then after that, he has to sort of tone it down a bit.
Come back to reality after.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of a mixed man. I started to see more when I was doing the research for that Gusto signing. I was starting to see more of a coherence to their policy, I guess. It seemed to make more sense to me the more I looked into it. But some of the signings were kind of just odd, and they really still haven't like. And Kunku, for example, is going to be fantastic. When I was looking into Leipzig, he really is going to be fantastic. That signing made sense to me. I think he can play as a 9, but that Leipzig system is going to be different to how they play in Chelsea, and we've seen issues with Werner translating, so I'm not sure how well that will work. But I'm seeing some coherence. What about you? What do you think?
I just think it's kind of a little. It's not solving any current issues, and sure, you see all the Chelsea fans on Twitter and ones I've spoken to are very upset with the way the season's going. They're currently sitting 10th on the Premier League table, but I just don't see any of these players necessarily helping them much this year. And I feel like if I were a Chelsea fan, put myself in their boots, I'd want to be at least making Europa League, if not Champions League. And at the moment, I don't think these signings are really going to help them do that this year. Give it a year or 2 years even, and yes, absolutely. But right this very second, I don't think it's a short-term solution. Like you said, getting these young guys is definitely a longer-term solution. So I see where they're coming from, but yeah.
They don't have they're starting like Kante can't play. Kovacic is fantastic, but they're starting like Jorginho. They need a midfield. I don't know. Do you think they should stick with Potter?
I don't at the moment, but I just don't know where they would go, who else they would go in and bring, because it's not like they'll go out bring any of the guys they've had before back in.
Yeah,
it's just one of those weird things. Like same thing with Leeds. I think we should get rid of Jesse Marsch because I think he's completely out of his depth, but I don't know who we would replace him with. It's that kind of feeling.
I think I used to be in the boat where, like, especially when Arteta started at Arsenal and was really stinking it up. And I think the difference is that Arteta, at least there seemed to be more of a plan with what Arteta was doing with Arsenal. You could see what he wanted to do. He just didn't quite have the players yet. They need to get rid of a lot of crap from that system. So I don't think the two situations are completely analogous. But I do think Arteta's example has made me think that top clubs don't necessarily need to just get rid of their managers. They need to be a bit more long-term thinking. And Graham Potter, in fairness, and De Zerbi's a fantastic manager, but he did put together some unbelievable foundations for like a really good side. Brighton have been a good side for 2-3 years now, and now it's really starting to show the roots. And a lot of that was Potter's. I'm not convinced by what I've seen so far in Chelsea, but I think I'd want to give him a bit of time, see what he can get cooking this summer transfer window, see if he's got more of a plan, and then next season it's kind of show us the goods.
Yeah, because I mean, did they brought him in mid-season this year, wasn't it?
Yeah, they got rid of Tuchel and brought him.
Yeah, so yeah, give him a whole, and this is such a weird year with the World Cup break and everything in between. You give Potter the full summer to get his team, get his players in. Yeah. And they could be back to what we usually expect Chelsea to be, a Champions League competing team.
They have a lot of deadwoods. They what is Pulisic and Ziyech and those lots still doing at this team? Like Ziyech starts, I guess, but like it's not.
I don't see any point in Pulisic being there.
Yeah, it's just like a squad like mashed together from like 3 different managers and 3 different ideas of how they want to play, and they just need to like have a clear out in the summer. Maybe get more of Potter's guys in, and then see where they stand in like September. See where they are.
And I mean, they still have Aubameyang, which I honestly forget that he's even still there. But that's and Loftus-Cheek on the bench. They just have a bunch of like you said, kind of dead weight that they just need to get rid of. And these young players that they're bringing in could be the solutions to those. So there's definitely is that, but. Mentioned a little bit Champions League. We do have another week and a bit until it's back, but there's some fun looking matchups there. It should be a good time.
I haven't been thinking about the Champions League as much this year because obviously Man United are in the Europa League, but I've been following along, and especially when I was looking into it for this show, I was struck by some of the matchups. I think obviously there's going to be the fantastic PSG Bayern matchup, there's a few tasty little ones in there as well. I'm very curious what's going to happen in the Chelsea Inter Milan matchup. I'm very curious.
Chelsea's playing Borussia Dortmund.
Oh, Chelsea's playing Borussia Dortmund. Sorry, that's the one I meant.
That's going to be interesting.
And I think what was the other one I was looking at? Tottenham AC Milan as well. no clue how those ones are going to go.
No, because go ahead.
All the teams involved in them have just been kind of like
very
no
subpar.
Yeah. We can go through them one by one if you'd want, or
Yeah, I'm up for doing that. So we'll start with that AC Milan and Tottenham one because that looks like that's the first match that they have when the Champions League comes back February 14th. Yeah. It's Tottenham. We know they're not going to win a trophy. But can they beat this AC Milan team that has looked inconsistent throughout the Serie A season?
Yeah, they kind of scream a bit average to me as a team. Rafael Leao is a star. I think some people have been comparing him to the next Thierry Henry. We'll have to see if that comparison holds up in the future. But he's a star. From when I watched him in those AC Milan Chelsea games, he was wow. He was like the constant threat. They've got Giroud, I believe.
Yeah, Giroud's still there.
Right, Milan team. Yeah, I'm thinking right Milan team.
He's been at both Milans. I'm pretty sure so.
He's been fantastic. But he just feels like an average group. They lost to Chelsea home and away. They drew at Salzburg. Like,
I mean, have you seen?
12 points behind Napoli. Like,
yeah, they have one win this calendar year.
Wow.
They started it out a 2-1 win against Salernitana. I'm not even pronouncing it.
I know what you're speaking about.
Yeah, you know who I mean. Then they drew with Roma, lost to Torino in the Coppa Italia.
Yeah.
Drew with Lecce, who is still a bottom feeder in the Serie A. Then were smoked 3-0 by Inter Milan, 4-0 by Lazio, the last two. Yeah. They have not looked good at all.
Yeah. I believe Pioli has been getting a lot. Pioli? I think that's how you say his name. He's been getting a lot of slack on Twitter. So one person say the issue is that he's very predictable with his substitutions and what he's going to do in the game. There's no sort of like, used to be a very reactive manager, like very on it with his substitutions. Now it's kind of just like, it's like, reminds me of I think it was Sarri who every 60 minutes would bring on Barkley for Kovacic or Kovacic for Barkley.
God, yeah.
Yep. It's kind of like that sort of stuff. But I think they've been given not an impossible draw in Tottenham. If you'd want a top of the group team, I think Tottenham would be up there.
Absolutely.
It feels like such an inconsistent team to me. I never know quite what to think of them because they have that fantastic half against Man City and then the second half happens and they come right back to earth. They beat, was it Crystal Palace 4-0 and they look average the next game.
Yeah.
In the group, so pretty average from what I see. They lost to Sporting and drew at them. They drew at Frankfurt. They only scored 8 goals in the group, despite having Harry Kane.
Not overly impressive. And another thing, like my thinking with Tottenham is, are they really gonna try and put a run together this year, or are they at that point because they're fighting for that 4th spot with Man U and I guess Newcastle's right there, Brighton's a little behind, but are they going to more focus on that and maybe rest some keyer players at times against this AC Milan side? I would hope not because I think it is big to win the Champions League, but you still want to be in there for the following season.
Yeah. No, I think there'd be sort of outcry. I think people would be marching into Daniel Levy's office and demanding Conte's head if they did that. Conte has never impressed in the Champions League. He's had some pretty dismal, despite the fact he had an excellent Chelsea side and an excellent Inter Milan side, he's been pretty dismal in the Champions League. They're pretty bad in the group, so I don't know. I think they have more quality than AC Milan, but this is going to be a tight one.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question on this. Just this last one for this fixture. Do you think Conte lasts the rest of the season?
Oh, I think so. I think he's going to run out his contract.
Okay.
I don't think they're going to fire him because
it's just this year. It's just this year, isn't it? And then
I think there's an optional extension, but it feels to me like unless something changes and they start winning, who knows? Maybe Dan Juma could interject some sort of energy into this Tottenham side because we'll speak about it later. But I really feel the ultimate issue at Tottenham is a lack of creativity, and Dan Juma could inject some of that, potentially.
But
we'll just have to see.
Yeah, we'll move on to the second match on that February 14th.
Score prediction?
Aggregate, I'll go 2-1 to Tottenham. I will say that they do find a way. I think they will lose one of the legs 1-0, but then win
Yeah.
the other 2-0. So it's kind of, I think we'll see both sides of both teams. There's just poor defending at times.
I
And
can see them really struggling at San Siro to create anything, but just not conceding anything.
yeah,
Tottenham Hotspur Stadium just like scoring 2 or 3.
yep, agreed. But we'll move on to the second game on Valentine's Day, February 14th. The big one, PSG and Bayern Munich.
Interesting. Okay, I want to hear your thoughts on this one first.
Oh, I want to lean Bayern Munich just because every time it seems like this matchup comes up, it's the same thing with Liverpool. Every time they play Bayern Munich, Bayern runs through.
Yeah.
This year, though, I feel like, I guess Messi still is kind of doing whatever he feels like. I think he's in the Alps, I saw this week. So he's still enjoying life.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll be back for Champions League, and that'll be a big difference. But I just can't not see PSG choking this somehow, some way.
Yeah.
I feel like it's theirs to win, but Bayern Munich will just be too disciplined. They'll find a way to shut down that front 4-3 and get something out of it.
I genuinely think Bayern are one of the favourites to win it this year. I was having a look at their statistics in the group. They had the sort of group of death. They had Barcelona, sort of resurging under Xavi. They have Inter Milan. They had some Victoria Plzen. They conceded 2 goals in the entire group stage, and it was against a team from Czech Republic. After they were winning 4-0 after 30 minutes, so they sort of switched off their brains and conceded 2 late goals. They didn't concede any goals versus Barcelona or Inter Milan, and they scored 18. Like they completely dominated the group stages. They're such a sort of machine. I will say they haven't been amazing in the Bundesliga. They're only 3 points clear, and you'd expect them to have a bit more distance.
Further,
yeah. But I don't know. I think they're such a machine. I think the fundamental issue at PSG, their manager, I think, has gotten a bit more of a balance to the side. He's got some youthful midfielders that they've signed. Can't remember their names, but I can see.
I'm pulling them up right now.
What were their names? Yeah, Vitinha. They just signed him young, 22. They've got some like players behind them to sort of like try complement Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe. I just feel the fundamental issue is those 3 players aren't that interested in doing much defensive work, especially Mbappe.
No.
Messi's old. Maybe Neymar might care a bit more, but it just doesn't feel like against a team as good as Bayern, you can win playing 8 versus 11 out of possession.
Yeah, you need to track back, and as good as Hakimi is at getting up and getting back, he is an outside back, so he needs to be defending, and it is that maybe Mbappe, Messi, Neymar get caught too far up, pulling the midfield with them, and then just Bayern counterattack.
Yeah,
and for me,
Sadio Mane,
that's something else. I think he has proven that he might be better than Mo Salah, or at least more important to that Liverpool side than Mo is, which just looking at how they've dropped off without him.
Yeah.
But I don't know. For me, the other thing about Bayern is, like you said, they're just a machine, bring in and out. Lose Manuel Neuer. I love the signing of Jan Sommer.
Yeah.
He was superb for the Swiss team outside of that 6-1 thrashing against Portugal at the World Cup. But that was kind of just one of those games that everything clicked for Portugal.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good sign. I think he will be good enough. And I do think Bayern Munich get through this.
Also, if you look at it, PSG drew 1-1 twice with Benfica, like at home and away. Like that's not good enough. That's too. And I don't feel like, from what I remember, let me just double check. I don't think they were particularly outplayed. Like from what I understand, the XG was reasonably similar. Like
I believe so. And that was the difference. That was the entire difference in the group.
Yeah. They came second in that group behind Benfica. That's not like, I don't sound like a teacher telling like a school child off, but that's just not good enough.
And I can't remember quite what I think it was something like Benfica scored 1 more away goal or something because they finished level on points, goals for, goals against, therefore goal difference, drew both matches against each other. I think it was down to like the 6th or 7th tiebreaker. Decide who wins that group.
And they get rewarded with Bayern Munich.
Yep.
Sort of serves them right.
Honestly. Yeah.
I have no sympathy for PSG. They're my least up there at like, in terms of just like as a concept outside of England, I think them and Barcelona are my 2 least favorite clubs.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can get behind PSG. Barcelona just I just don't understand how they still are allowed to spend. That's a whole different.
Yeah,
We could do a
that's a
whole
can of
hour. We could
worms.
do a whole
Yeah,
hour show just talking about Barcelona, but
what a
they're not in the
weird.
Champions League,
Yeah,
so we'll keep
yeah.
moving
Well,
on.
I'm gonna have to
Next,
deal with them in a few weeks, but
the next couple: Borussia Dortmund versus Chelsea.
that's gonna be an interesting one.
It will
Because
indeed.
Dortmund, they weren't great in their group. They did have to play Man City twice, and they only conceded 5 goals. So and they held them to a draw at home, but like 9 points in that group.
I mean, I will say part credit to Sevilla. They're never an easy team in Europe.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
probably the best Europa League side ever.
yeah, yeah,
But it's still, you would think that a Borussia
yeah,
Dortmund side, doesn't matter the
yeah,
players, should be able to get the win there.
yeah. Like they again defensively very solid, but I think with the loss of Haaland really hit hard. And just I feel bad for Dortmund in a way. They just constantly have these great stars, and they're getting raided. It's going to be Jude Bellingham next. I
Yeah.
they don't get a chance to like form great teams now. Unfortunately, they just get raided by the Premier League,
Or Bayern.
or Bayern. Yeah. um, but I don't know. The fifth in the Bundesliga, which looks a lot worse than it was because I think they're only 4 points,
They're
5 points behind league leaders.
yeah.
So they're not far off. And I guess you're right that Sevilla, like they did have a tough group, but I don't
You
know.
still would expect at least another win
Yeah,
there.
yeah, and I don't think they scored many goals in that group either. So I think,
Don't believe so. No, they scored 10, gave up 5. Not
yeah,
great, not terrible.
it's fine. Yeah.
I mean,
Looking at Chelsea compared to them as well, it's kind of like similar. Like they didn't concede many goals during their Champions League, but their attack is woefully
yeah,
inconsistent.
yeah.
So I don't know where the goals are going to come from in that
Chelsea were
game.
10-4, 4 against in the group stage, which their group
Yeah,
was AC Milan, Salzburg, and Dynamo Zagreb. So you would have
yeah,
expected Chelsea to maybe win a couple more of those.
yeah.
They did have one draw, one loss, but
I think they lost to Zagreb away as well, which
I
was
think that wasn't that the first one. I think they lost
yeah,
to Zagreb and drew with Salzburg and then
yeah,
won out or
yeah.
something like that.
I think that was it. They won their last 4. I think that was around the time Tuchel got sacked, from what I
Yep.
remember.
Yeah,
And they turned it around.
lost to Zagreb 1-0, then
Yeah,
drew at home to Salzburg and then won out.
like they played pretty decent. I remember watching those AC Milan games
Mhm.
in class with my friend, who's a big
Yep.
Chelsea fan. And despite the fact Leao was dangerous, I think they still handled him pretty well. They've got
Yeah.
a pretty good defense. At least for the Champions League, I think Dortmund's not going to worry them too much. I think Badiashile is a great signing, as I mentioned earlier. Reece James not being there is going to hurt them, but I think it'll be a low scoring affair. Again, it's sort of you have to ask where the goals are coming from in Chelsea. They only put one past Palace, I think, from what I remember. They're not like the most fluid attacking outfit in the world. So I kind of wonder in that regard. But I think it's going to be it's an interesting game to see where both teams are. That's what I really enjoy about the Champions League is you don't know where these teams are in relation to each other till you actually, because of the varying qualities of the league, until you actually play them. So it'll be interesting to see how Chelsea actually does against Dortmund. I'm no pushover, despite what I've said. They're a pretty decent side.
Yeah.
They held Man City, so it'll be interesting to see just from a standpoint like where they actually are in
No,
Europe.
I agree. I do. This is why Champions League's fun. You got to see teams from different countries, different places in their tables at the moment, all
Yep.
going at it. But moving on to that next match. This one I think is a little more interesting than it kind of seems just on paper, just because these are two of the smaller dogs left, Club Bruges and Benfica.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's kind of just a really funky looking one because I mean, obviously Benfica won the group over
Yeah.
PSG, so no one really expected this kind of match.
Yeah. I mean, Club Brugge beat Atletico at Atletico's ground, sorry, they beat them at home and drew away at Atletico's ground, and they beat Porto 4-0 in Porto.
Lost 4-0 at home to Porto.
Yeah, it was bizarre. When I saw that, it was the most
was-
bizarre thing. They sort of swapped him around. I was like, well, how did that happen?
Yeah, that's not what home field advantage is meant to be.
Yeah. They're a young side as well, from what I see. I think all their goal scorers were about like late teens, early 20s.
Okay.
So they're going to be an interesting side just in terms of like, you know, can they maintain this level for the next few years? Like beating Atletico and beating Bayern Leverkusen, that's not like an easy task. Doing over 6 games isn't just a fluke. They're a young side. Like I do think they'll get beaten by Benfica, but you know they've got Simon Mignolet in goal. I think that was an aspect to it as well. Simon Mignolet played very well and sort of maybe made the results look a bit more flattering than they should have been. Okay. So I think maybe that was an aspect to it as well. But fair play to them for getting this far.
Absolutely, you can only do what you can only play the teams in front of you, and they did that to the best of their abilities, and sure enough, are in that knockout round.
Yeah. That wasn't an easy group. Like
no,
they could have easily got. I mean, most people just said they were going home in 4th.
Yeah, I think going into that Group B, I would have had Atletico Madrid and Bayer Leverkusen, maybe Porto is that second team, but I think it would have been the German and Spanish teams getting through, not the Portuguese and Belgian team.
Yeah, it's a wild group. Atletico really are. Well, they're playing right now. I wonder what the score is.
Yeah, and that's something.
They're winning 1-0 against Madrid.
That's something I do want to touch on after we can do that as this like little halftime break because we're halfway through the Champions League matches.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say something quickly on Benfica.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to say I think they're going to win, and I think it's going to be quite a good game. Just in terms of, from what I understand, they play a lot. They play quite exciting. Play a lot of transition games. They've got Enzo Fernandez, who obviously the whole world
for now at least.
For now at least,
I think he's going to stay.
I think someone will come swooping, but I think he's going to stay for this fixture at least. They played well against PSG. I think that this side, I'd be interested to see. I think they're going to make it through to the quarterfinals pretty comfortably. Could be wrong here, but I'm excited to see who they play at the quarterfinals.
I would love to see like a Benfica or a Porto or one of those teams make another good run like Ajax did a few years ago. But going to like the little intermission of talking of that Atletico Madrid-Real Madrid match in the Copa del Rey, did you see what the Atletico Madrid fans did last night?
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Absurd. For those who are watching, listening, the Atletico Madrid fans hung a doll with a Vinicius Jr. jersey off the edge of a bridge. It looked like he was just hanging, kind of like you did when you kill people. But that's... What are your thoughts on that? For me, it was kind of like this might be a step too far, as much of a rivalry as it is. It's not like he's really done anything wrong, I don't believe,
they've been doing this
all the hate, but he's been getting hate all season.
Yeah, they've been doing this all season. I think a lot of it is unfortunately just racism.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of comments. I think someone referred to him on that show El Chiringuito, the Madrid talk show where the Real Madrid guy is always going crazy about Mbappe or whatever. The thing where he's doing TikTok to get him to imply Mbappe was coming. Someone referred to him as a monkey on that show. He's been told to go back to Brazil because of his dancing by Atletico players. Like they've really gone after him for the dancing thing, and a lot of it's probably racially tinged as well. It's very unfortunate. Like I don't get me wrong. I love
too much fun, I guess.
It's too much fun. He's upsetting Roy Keane. I don't know. I love a good rivalry. Don't get me wrong. I love not mucking about, but there's always
you can go a step too far.
Yeah, this is way too far. And it's just going to add an extra unpleasant aspect to this game because. It's a shame that in football, despite all the efforts we took in 2020, that is still in Spain, one of the biggest Spanish league, one of the biggest leagues in the world, and arguably the second biggest rivalry in Spain. I'm not an expert on Spanish football.
No, I would assume so.
That is still being marred by racism. It's very disappointing that football still hasn't fully taken the steps. I also was reading that the Spanish authorities, so there was racist chanting at an Atletico Real Madrid game directed at Vinicius, and Spanish authorities decided that the chanting was so short that they weren't going to take any measures against it. What are we doing?
Yeah, at that point, it's like, yeah, just be racist. We're not going to do anything to stop you.
Yeah.
And then I think it was Ancelotti went out after the La Liga and the Federation for all that, and it's like, yeah, well, you can't be allowing this. They're like, why not?
Yeah,
Pretty
it's
much.
so disappointing that football's still dealing with this stuff. Like in Italy and Spain, like this
It's
stuff is so commonplace. Like
even
in football
even
legacy.
England to an extent.
Yeah,
It's definitely gone down a lot
yeah,
in the last decade, but still stuff going on
yeah.
there.
Well, you
It's
had the
just
Millwall fans booing the knee, and like it became so politicized during the Euros. Like
yeah,
it's
that's also Millwall fans. So
yeah, it's just so unpleasant that it's
no, it
still such
really
a big
is.
part of our game.
Super
It's,
sad. But
um,
while we're discussing just live stuff, Al Nassr, Cristiano Ronaldo's team, knocked out of the Saudi Cup today.
what?
They lost 3-1 to Al Ittihad.
Oh, I want to. I have
It,
not seen the Twitter reactions to this.
it
Oh
cannot
goodness,
be good.
they must have been.
Ronaldo did not score. I don't
Yeah,
even. I would assume he played. But
yeah,
maybe this was a good move for him. Maybe he does.
yeah. Maybe
Deserve,
this
maybe
is
he
the level.
does deserve to play this level at the moment. If
Yeah. Well, he's been stinking it up on the pitch. Apparently, he stunk up the pitch last game. According again, I don't always trust Twitter because
it
Ronaldo,
is Twitter.
you have to take everything someone says about Ronaldo with a pinch of salt. But he didn't score, and you expect him to score in the Saudi Arabian league.
Oh yeah.
Maybe PSG were just letting him score.
Yeah.
You know,
I
so
mean,
that second goal, Sergio Ramos looked a bit suspect. I will say.
it's that friendly vibe where they
Yeah.
wanted 2 Messi goals and 2 Ronaldo goals
Yeah,
to say
exactly.
the last battle of the goats.
Yeah.
But
That is funny. It's a lot of like satisfaction as well.
yeah.
Because he was Ten Hag's first real test as a manager, and I think he played him too many times. I think there were certain games which were winnable. I remember it was that Aston Villa fixture where that was the last time we lost before, obviously the Arsenal loss. And he played Ronaldo and Van der Beek. It was like, we don't need Ronaldo in this game, and it cost us.
Yep. And
Weghorst, I think Weghorst better.
Yeah, it's much better without Ronaldo as we see now. But back to Champions League, getting back on it the following week. Frankfurt, Napoli. We can touch on this one. This one's going to be loud.
Yeah.
No guarantees what the results are either way, but both these fan bases are great.
Yeah.
You saw the Frankfurt fans take over Arsenal or in England when they play them and just take over everywhere. Or was it Tottenham that was in their group, I believe, this year?
I think it was Tottenham.
Because I think it was the Europa League a few years ago that it was Arsenal.
Yeah.
It was Tottenham.
Yeah, it was Tottenham. Yeah, I think Napoli are going to batter them. I think Napoli are fantastic. Spalletti's got them roaring. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but the bloke from Georgia, Kvaratskhelia, and Victor Osimhen's going to move for like 150 million in the summer or something. They just battered Juventus 5-1, 50 points in Serie A.
That was a Juventus team that had given up like 2 goals over their previous 8 matches. So,
and this Frankfurt team, like they've got Kolo Muani from the World Cup, but they barely got into the Champions League knockout stage. They sort of needed 2 wins in the last 2 games. They got them. They don't control the possession a lot. They sort of give the ball away stupidly. I think Napoli, they're going to give the ball away, and Napoli's going to get straight to their electric wingers, and they're going to. I think it's going to be a battering.
I think it could end aggregate wise probably like 4 or 5-1.
Yeah, I think it's really not going to be fun for Frankfurt fans.
Yeah, that one.
I'm excited to see this Napoli side make a run.
Oh, I think they could. They could definitely make a semi-final at least, if not the final. But move on to the next one, which I also think could be a battering: Real Madrid, Liverpool.
Oh, that's going to be interesting.
There's a lot of tension between these two. A lot of beat-ups in the past, and
Real Madrid's given me a lot of satisfaction over the years and spiting Liverpool.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know on this one. I do think Real Madrid probably will beat them. But
the one thing I will say is that Liverpool did manage to beat Napoli, who I widely lauded, and I think rightfully so. But they did beat them 2-0 at home. And I hate to use punditry like this because I think it's so wishy-washy, but there is a sense to which Anfield gets up a lot more for these Champions League nights. They don't have a hope of winning the Premier League. I think there's an element to which Champions League is their one like shot at like actual trophy where
Mhm.
Real Madrid have been. It feels like a bit of reliance on Real Madrid magic a bit. From what I've seen, they had two late comebacks. They had a 95th minute header from Rudiger against Shakhtar. They scored 2 goals in the last 7 minutes against Leipzig. They're still a fantastic side, and I think Benzema was in a bit of a shooting slump. So once he sort of gets out of that slump a bit and gets back to his usual standards and achieves his XG,
Yeah.
I think that'll be fine. But I don't want to underestimate Liverpool in this game.
No, not at all, because they are still to have the players and have the coaching to do well. I do think I'm sure you've heard of the seventh season syndrome with Jurgen Klopp. This is his seventh season. I do think that they will lose to Real Madrid, but I think it could be an entertaining tie.
It will be entertaining. I wonder if is Van Dijk going to be back for the.
I'm
curious.
I'm not sure.
Doesn't say anything on Google. I'll type in Van Dijk injury. That probably makes sense. Okay, so worse than expected. So sidelined for a few weeks, so he probably will be back for the Real Madrid game. I just feel like the fundamental issue is, and we really will touch on this later, so I don't go too depth into it.
Yeah, no.
Liverpool's midfield has to cover too much ground and doesn't have the legs to do it. So I really think Real Madrid could get after them. Luka Modric might end up running the whole game. Toni Kroos, we'll see. I don't want to count Liverpool out. They've still got Mo Salah.
I mean,
no clue if Luiz is going to be back for the game, but he's fantastic. So we'll just have to see.
Yeah, they still have a good team, and they're still one of the stronger sides, at least on paper, in England. But moving on, last two, Inter Milan, FC Porto, and we'll start with that one before we go Leipzig and Man City. But Inter Porto.
In fact, Inter did just beat Napoli.
That is fair.
They beat Barcelona and drew at them at Camp Nou. They've got something to them.
Then they did also just lose to Empoli in the league, which
well, that's not as ideal. From what I've seen, they're a pretty passive side.
Yeah.
They're not going to be on the front foot pressing hard. They've got a bit of an old side. It's going to be a lot of transitions. It's going to be a lot of seeding control and trying to spring a quick attack. And I don't know how far that could take you in the Champions League, but if there is a side it could take, you could do well against is Porto, who had a really weird Champions League. They got battered, obviously, as we mentioned, by Bruges to start the thing, and then lost to Atletico away. Then when their next four Champions League games in a row by 11 goals to 1.
Yeah.
So they turned it up out of nowhere.
The Portuguese teams are always weird, it seems.
Yeah.
They really either score a ton of goals or they give up a ton of goals. It never seems like it's
never
that mix. It's always entertaining watching the Portuguese teams play.
I think this game could be really I think again the issue at these lot is they're going to play on the front foot, but I think they can get up very easily. Porto, they've got Taremi, which I'm sure American men's national team fans will remember being sort of scared of him before the US-Iran game. Didn't do much in the end, but he scored 5 goals. I reckon Inter will probably win this.
Yeah, I agree. I do think it'll be a little too much power. Lautaro Martinez is riding high. I mean, Lukaku seems to be a little better in Italy, but not really. And then even Edin Dzeko, he has 7 goals this season for him. So, which he consistently flies below the radar for everything. He just kind of seems to be there. I also didn't even realize they had Mkhitaryan.
Yeah, I just had a look at that. They've got Mkhitaryan and Matteo Darmian.
They have a significantly better squad than I guess what their position in the league shows.
Their centre backs, I do really rate Bastoni and Skriniar. I think the one issue is I've heard Skriniar might be going to PSG, so I might have to.
Everyone might be going to PSG. They have so much money that.
Yeah, they've got Barella as well. Stefan de Vrij, he's always moving around in Football Manager. They've got some good play. They've got a good enough side to make the quarterfinals. Not sure about further than that, but they're good enough to get the quarters. I think they'll beat Porto.
Yeah, I agree. I do think they will get through, and that leaves us with one more. I think this one will be one-sided. Man City, Red Bull Leipzig. I see an Erling Haaland like 3 or 4 goals in this against.
Well, I will give Red Bull Leipzig
Oh,
some credit.
absolutely. But
They did just draw with Bayern.
yeah,
That's never sort of easy. They did beat Real Madrid in the group stages. Um, they've been on like a 10-game unbeaten streak in the Bundesliga. They're in good form. They've got Nkunku scored 17 and 23, who's I think Nkunku's fantastic.
okay.
He might not be like, especially against City, they're probably going to be getting most of their opportunities on transition. I think he's a great transitional player, great combination, gets great burst. I don't think he's like electrically quick. He's not going to sort of scare you like Mbappe is, but he's got enough burst to like get past his man. Again, I think City just have so much more quality. Obviously, arguably the world's best manager. Although in the Champions League, he loves a good tinker. So we'll have to see.
And also, it's Man City. It's just like PSG. They always find a way to mess it up.
They always find a way to mess it up, and I love it. So I think it will probably be a Man City. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what form Man City are in off because they're playing Arsenal pretty soon. I think that'll be a good barometer for how they're feeling. That's still a fantastic side. They're still arguably the best side. They've taken a step back since last year, statistically, from what I understand, but they should still beat them. The Red Bull Leipzig's defense can be erratic at times, and they have just so much quality that
Yeah, I agree. I do think City is just too strong of a team for Leipzig. Nothing against them, but it is. Yeah. I do think Man City will get through. Brings an end our Champions League discussion. I just got a couple other football related topics so we can kind of quick bounce around. Ted Lasso. Have you seen it? Because I know it's a big thing that I know Trey does streaming for Vendetta of the Ted Lasso on FIFA. But what do you think of all that?
Well, the people on my calls know exactly what I think about Ted Lasso. Don't want to be too controversial. I watched the first season.
I think it's shit. I think it's terrible.
I really didn't like it. Look, it means well, and it's kind of cool seeing like the pub, the main pub they all go to. That's right beside Richmond Green. I've been there a bunch of times, and that's nice. I've been seeing where he supposedly lives, that little small street. I've been there a bunch of times, and it's nice and all. It's like a feel good story, and it's cool to have like a show about the Premier League. But it's such nonsense at times. Like it's just it's disappointing. And I know you obviously can't have like an actually realistic Premier League show if you want that like watch All or Nothing, but like the way they portray it is just so like it's just like the infuriating thing about it is they get things wrong that they really don't need to, and I don't know if it's issues to do with the thing. Like for example, the way they portrayed like the analysts in Soccer Saturday is just not how it works. It looks silly. It just looks a bit silly at times, and this just you have to suspend your belief so much. Like the guy took over a mid-table side and got them relegated, and barely, from what I understand, they barely made it back up, or they didn't make it back up.
I stopped watching after like 3 or 4 episodes. I couldn't get by it, and I'm living through the real Ted Lasso with Jesse Marsh and all the Americans. It sounds like we're about to sign another American, but Weston McKennie from Chelsea.
Oh, Weston McKennie's going to go to
Juventus, apparently.
Wow.
Which
Tyler Adams,
I don't know how I feel about that. I would have much rather gotten the Moroccan Owani, but we'll touch on that later.
Tyler Adams is fantastic, I think. But anyway,
I do too. I think he's brilliant, but no, Ted Lasso, I just cannot abide. And I mean, everyone. We were at the same school. I went to ASU as well, and everyone in the Cronkite school loved Ted Lasso. All the football fans were like, "Oh, this is great." Even the non-ones were like, "Yes, the show's amazing." It's not.
I just feel like a Grinch. Like
I do too, but I
like that
it's our opinions.
I guess no, you're right. Like I can't pretend to like something I don't like, and I feel like it's good as in it's like making people that, and like the Wrexham show, they're good ways of getting people into football in England. So I'm never going to complain about that, and it really does feel like the show is designed for people who aren't necessarily familiar with the Premier League to really get into it. And they do their best, and I can't fault them. They don't have like bad intentions with football, and football's completely fine. It's just annoying.
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned another team there, another show at least, Wrexham, owned by Ryan Reynolds. Was there much talk about them in England, or is it more hyped up here just because it is Ryan Reynolds?
But I do want to say I did move to America like just before the documentary.
Oh, okay.
I think the general consensus was this is a cool idea, but I didn't speak to too many people about the whole Wrexham thing because they're a non-league side and they're in Wales. But it's like a cool idea, and the way they done it seems respectful and putting the club first, and they'll actually sort of potentially take them. It seems like Football Manager in real life, and I'm always down for that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm never gonna complain. I don't know much about them, but it seems like a cool idea.
Yeah, and I mean, it's working out. Wrexham is currently top of the National League.
Oh, okay.
They're 3 points ahead of Notts County, and if they were to somehow continue this and finish first, it would see them go up to League Two for those listening in who aren't exactly sure what the National League even is. Because I'm willing to bet most of you have never even heard of it. But
yeah,
that would be a great story right there. Just them somehow, Ryan Reynolds and this guy coming in, buying them, and getting them promoted to the actual league.
Yeah, because I think the National League, the Vanarama National League, is the semi-professional, and then League Two, I think maybe they're fully professional, but that's like it's like the league, the border between like semi-professional sides, and then when you get to League Two, that's when the English Football League, like the organization starts running it, and that's when it becomes more of a professional side. So it's a big step up. But it's cool. I from what I understand, they were in the playoff finals last year and lost.
I believe so. Or I think they made the playoff. I don't know if they made the final or went out in the semi, but I'm pretty sure they were in some sort of playoff. But
the one thing I will say is a pretty hard transition. My friend is a Forest Green Rovers fan.
Oh, okay.
They are really struggling in League Two. They were like unbelievable in the National League.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, they went from League Two to League One.
Wow. Oh, yeah, and that was and they're struggling in League One at the moment.
They are bottom of League One by 3 points. Amount. Yeah.
Plymouth is leading
in League One. Good for Plymouth.
Yeah.
I went to one of those Forest Green Rovers game when they were in League Two.
Are the lower like professional leagues fun? Because I've only ever been I've been to Championship match, Premier League match, then a National League, so never League One or League Two.
It's so much fun. I went to Carlisle versus Forest Green Rovers. I was a bit hungover at the time. I was in Edinburgh visiting a friend. I was a bit hungover. I was a bit like, I don't know if I can do this. But I sort of was like, fuck it. My friend's a big Forest Green Rovers fan. We've got to do it. And we went. It's only Carlisle's right on the border with Scotland, so it was only like an hour on the train, hour and a half. And we went in the away end, and it was unbelievable. It was so much fun.
I can believe it.
The attendance was about 3,500, and this was for like a league 4th division sides, and it was so cool. Yeah, I still had to hide a bit coming out. I didn't want anyone to know because we were in Carlisle. We didn't get jumped, but it was really cool experience. I really like lower league football. I think England is the country with the biggest like lower league following, and I love it. I want to go to. It's really good atmosphere.
Yeah, no, they're fun, and I assume was it like terraces at these, or I guess it's
it was standing.
Still,
from I think. Well, no, it was sitting. I think terraces aren't legal, but like everyone was standing.
Because
I think it wasn't like a standing section, but we had our seats, but everyone was standing.
Ah, fair. Because the only terrace I've ever seen was at Woking, and I mean, it's just something different because we don't have that in the U.S. And I guess that's something else we can hop into a little bit is that cultural difference between watching football here in the U.S., watching football over in England.
Yeah.
Because it's extremely different. We don't have the standing rooms here. I think the first time I've seen a standing room section was in Nashville. And that's kind of just a random place to even have one. But
I have a funny story about my culture experience actually. So it was the first week at Cronkite. I didn't know everyone very well. We'd had our sort of like orientation week, and there was the first week of classes, and it was Manchester United versus Liverpool. It was like a Wednesday. Our ethics class finished at 1 p.m. So we were going to go watch it. We rung around. We tried to figure out which bars showed it, and the only bar that showed it was this bar right beside Chasefield. So I walk up feeling great, have my Man United top on, feeling like excited. I walk in. Turns out it's a Liverpool bar. The minute I step in, I start getting called all sorts of names under the sun. I try buy a pint. I'm getting like dirty looks. A guy with an Arsenal top's like, "Oh mate, you've walked into the wrong bar." It's like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, is this the one right off of the light rail next to the Marguerite Taco place?
Yeah, it's that one.
Yeah, I know there's that one. There's a Man City bar right by downtown.
Yeah, Kettle Black. That's where I had to go watch it because I'm in there for about 2 minutes. I just ordered my beer, and then Marcus Rashford scores. I sort of, and I'm giving everyone's been giving me stick. I sort of go, like, "Hey." I get asked to leave instantly. So I go to the Kettle Black, and some guys are having the game on, and I watch the end of the game, and I realize I left my card there, so I have to go back. I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna get jumped. I go back in. The owner's lovely. He gives me a free pint. I buy another one. I end up having a discussion about football for about an hour, 2 hours with a bunch of Liverpool fans. It was completely fine, but I didn't wear my Man United top was the big thing.
And it was that 90 minutes between.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as the match is on, and I guess you wearing your Man U shirt didn't help, but...
Well, what they thought I was doing, they thought I was coming in to wind them up, which is why I didn't know it was a Liverpool bar. They thought I was coming in knowing it was a Liverpool bar to, like, give them stick. It was wild. But I really...
moved here.
Yeah, I'm not from this country. Like, I don't know how it works. 'Cause in London, when I watch games, it's not usually like that unless you're besides the stadium. So if beside the stadium, if you're in Tottenham or if you're in Arsenal, like the area, you're probably not going to want to go in there with the Tottenham shirt on.
Mm-hmm.
But like if you live in, I don't know, Hammersmith, unless there's a Fulham game on, like you can go to any bar you want wearing a Man United top, you're not going to get jumped. So it was unusual for me. I've never experienced that before.
Okay.
And it's quite fun because I go to the Man United bar. It's only a few stops away from me on the light rail. It was packed for the English game. The English France, I couldn't move. It was unbelievable. It was a shame when we lost. Yep. So it would have been unbelievable, electric because most people wanted England to win.
Oh, absolutely. If only.
If only, but I can't speak about that because I'll start getting emotional.
No, I get on that one. We'll save that for today, but
yeah, I've really enjoyed it. It's been very different, and I think there's an element to which they see English football culture and try bring it over, and I think that's cool. Like, let them, get them involved. I think sometimes I don't fully because they've never been. Some of them have been to England to watch games, but yeah, it's cool. I really like it.
No, I agree. It's great. And I mean, like seeing just what you've mentioned about in Arizona with all the couple pubs that have team specific, that's what makes it kind of fun following a Premier League team here is you are able to watch every single match of your team, which I'm not sure if you're able to now in England. I don't think you are, but I could watch all 10 matches on the weekend here and follow. And I know at least Arizona, there was a group of about 15 other Leeds fans who would meet at this one pub. Here, there's about 10 Leeds fans who go and meet up. There's also Liverpool bars, Man U bars everywhere, Chelsea bars. It's great how much it really is coming around, and you can find these places that just show English football the whole time. And it's really cool to see because it's like not home away from home, but it's like you get that feeling of people. And a lot of the guys are English who come down here, so...
It's a cool, like hearing about why different people pick teams. Like, it's a really, first thing I want to say, it's a really cool sense of community. Sometimes I'll just go watch Man United games on my own and I'll have a few pints and I'll just end up talking for hours to these random blokes who just like love Man United. I don't know if I'm being annoying or not when I'm speaking to them, but like when I've had a few pints, I'll just talk to anyone. I visited America in April just to have a look around before I came to live here. And I just sort of, my main way of meeting people, I just go into sports bars, start talking about football or like American sports, and I made a bunch of friends that way. I really enjoyed it. I love the sense of community, and I love like hearing the different reasons why people pick the teams. So I met this guy. I was in Atlanta for the Manchester City versus Liverpool game. Fantastic game. It was 2-2, and I spoke to this guy. He was a big Bournemouth fan. I was like, Bournemouth?
That's random.
He hadn't been to Bournemouth. He just liked the logo or something like that. I was like, power to you. It was wild, but I love hearing like how people support these like random teams. There was this one guy, what was it? I can't remember the exact story, but I think his surname was like, I met him during the World Cup. I think he was a Wolves fan because his surname was Wolves or something like that. It was something like his surname was a club, and I think it was Wolves. It was the wildest thing I've heard in my life. This like big guy was like American, was a Wolves fan. I was like, have you ever been to Wolverhampton? I mean, I think if you went there, you wouldn't want to be a fan of Wolves anymore. It was wild.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I know I've run into like you mentioned Forest Green, but same league, League One. I've run into people wearing Bolton shirts or Portsmouth shirts. I'm like, now, first of all, do you know where they are? It's like, yeah, it's an English team. Why the hell do you follow them?
Mate,
Don't
Bolton had
know.
some
I had a
ballers, man.
friend who
Bolton
went,
and Portsmouth had
oh,
some ballers.
I know. But it's like, oh, I was in England, or I had a friend visit from England, and they just happened to bring me this kind of shirt, so I stuck with them. But it's absurd. You can find fans of everything, and I don't know if you would have seen it watching the Premier League this past weekend, but they do their fan fest now. Like they had one in Orlando this week,
Oh,
where there are, I think, hundreds,
yeah.
if not thousands, of people going down there, all different shirts and stuff.
Yeah.
Couldn't imagine something like that happening in England, where fans of all 20 Premier League teams all gathered in one place. I'm sure they would all just be singing and hugging and having
Be like a
pints with each
riot.
other. There'd be
Yeah.
nothing, no issues going on
No
at all.
issues. No issues
No,
at all. No, there's no
uh,
reason why they use police to segregate them at these
yeah,
games.
no, no. And that's like something else I've found is very different. Like explaining to friends who don't necessarily know a lot about European and South American football and all the other countries in the world is it's like, yeah, there's a section for away fans. And if you're
Yeah.
not an away fan, you can't get in there. And if you're an
Yeah.
away fan, you can't be sitting in the home section wearing your own colors, otherwise you'll be hit.
It was wild explaining that to even my mum. So my mum's from Ireland, not a big sports head, but I went to a game with her back in late 2017. It was a Europa League game versus Feyenoord, and she always like describes it. She's a bit dramatic. It's a bit dramatic when she describes it, but it's not entirely wrong. Is that like the Feyenoord fans who had to be shepherded by police horses like into the away section? They're like sort of coming towards us. She sort of panicked. It was like it's fine. They're going their own way, but like they don't fuck about with this. It's
No,
really cool.
it's
Like how much people care. Obviously, it goes badly sometimes, but you know, no
you
fucking
know,
about when it comes to their clubs.
no, not at all. And it's impressive. Like even and it makes being an away fan special.
Yeah.
You go
Oh,
in with people traveling with your team across the
it's
country.
really cool. Yeah.
But I mean, I can't really think. I think there's maybe one or two teams in the U.S. where I think maybe in a away their fans are so rowdy that an away section would be useful. And I'd say it's the
Yeah.
Philadelphia Eagles, because Philadelphia fans, if you've come, I don't know if you've
Yeah.
come across any of them, they're crazy.
I've
Philadelphia
watched It's
fans
Always
are
Sunny in
just
Philadelphia.
they're just a different breed. The
Yeah.
closest thing you can get to English hooligans, I would say.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
them and like the Oakland Raiders before they moved to Vegas, those fans were something wild that you never know what's going to happen. But it's just such a different culture change when it comes to sport. It's here, it's everyone's welcome. It's you're wearing a red shirt, I'm wearing a blue shirt. I hate you. You hate me. That's it.
Yeah. It is a bit odd when you think about it.
Oh yeah, when you put it like that, it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
But it is. It just is what it is.
I would like it for a bit. From my understanding as well, there are some pretty hardcore supporters group. I spoke to a guy from the Phoenix Rising. He said they've got a pretty hardcore supporters groups, and that's good. And that's the sort of stuff I think that made the MLS an interesting product.
Yeah.
Get some of the supporters groups. Like there are definitely people who are very passionate about football and love to redirect their energy towards a Premier League to like a local team as well. Like given how popular and packed the pubs are in Phoenix, I think if the Phoenix Rising made the MLS, they could really. And the Rising's moving a lot closer. They're moving to downtown Phoenix now.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, and that's great because their stadium was out in the boonies before.
Yeah, I've heard they're in the middle of nowhere.
But that's one of my issues with the MLS is there's not that promotion relegation. Looking at the MLS league this year, I believe there's like 30 teams, maybe 32 teams in that first division broken into two conferences. At that point, just make it two separate leagues and have relegation promotion.
Yeah.
Because the USL has about 40 teams in it, which one's the Phoenix Rising, but
they do promotion and relegation, right? The USL.
No,
I thought they had different, like a championship.
Oh, USL 2. Well, even then, I don't think it's relegation and promotion to the other USL leagues.
Okay.
I think they might have like different groups in it, but it's a 40-team league, so it's hard to actually understand what all is going on. But it makes sense to have the winner of the USL Cup or the top two teams go up where the losers of each conference in the MLS were to come down or something.
It does feel like And I know I'm not sure if promotion relegation will ever be allowed because of the
Well,
way American sports are structured with their ownership. But it'd be a really cool, like, for example, the Phoenix Rising, which is like the fifth biggest media market. Like the MLS would love to have them.
Oh yeah.
And I know there are issues with like the heat in the summer, but like,
But they
it'd be
still
an unbelievably cool.
they still play in Texas and Houston and Dallas and Austin, and it's hot as hell there.
I think they have air conditioning in their stadiums. I don't think the Phoenix Rising have that yet. I think that would be the one issue.
I'll say air conditioning in stadiums for the most part sucks from my experience.
Okay. But you're in Qatar, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's the air conditioning there was by far the worst thing because it's just right down everyone's necks and it's like underneath the seats, and you go in expecting it to be 80 degrees and warm, and sure it was hotter on the pitch, but you feel like it's almost winter time again.
Yeah, Christ. But I don't do well in the cold. I wouldn't like that.
See, that's fair. I'm a very much into the cold weather stuff. And
thanks. Thank you.
Well, otherwise,
I came to Phoenix to leave the cold.
Yeah, but yeah, it definitely doesn't rain as much in Phoenix, I'd say, as it does in England.
Yeah,
say a little less at least. But now, have you gotten to just one other question on like cultural differences? Have you gone to any of the other U.S. sports? Like, have you been to any ASU games?
I've been to a bunch of ASU games, and I really enjoy that. I was just at the ASU UCLA game, which was really
the basketball.
Yeah, that was fun. Even though ASU lost,
rough game. But
they played really well for the first 36 minutes. It's a shame. I went to pretty much all the ASU football home games. Which wasn't that fun, apart from the Washington game. The Washington game was cool.
Oh yeah, I bet that was fun. The issue is like there's no real passion for ASU football. It's like the students all go for half the game and then go to Mill.
It's wild. I didn't like
people don't stay. It's like people come. The only reason people even would go to the first half of the games is because it's like they'll be at their pregame parties, go for a little bit to meet up with other people, then they'll all piss off to the bars.
It's wild.
It's crazy.
For the Washington comeback win, it was like me, 3 of my friends from uni, and then there was like maybe 30 other people in the student section. It was like the wildest comeback I've seen in football.
No, it's crazy.
ASU football, anyway.
Yeah, it's weird. Have you been to just out of curiosity, have you been to Mullet Arena yet for any of the ice hockey?
I have not. I don't know any rules of ice hockey.
Okay. I would say it's probably worth it because ice hockey's a blast. I will say where ASU used to play was so much fun. They played at this place called Oceanside Arena. It was probably 400 seats max, maybe. Wow. It looks like I don't know how to describe it. Kind of like a public ice rink that they just threw some bleachers on. Oh, and he's gone. Where'd you go, Will? Oh, well. Anyway, it's ASU hockey's old arena was bizarre.
Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. I was going to press Control-T to have a look at what this place looked like, and I pressed refresh instead. I'm sorry.
I know you were all arena. But no, it's an absolute dump. But there would be like 150 students stuck at one end, and you're right on the glass, so you're hitting against it. Everyone's just there to have fun and yell at the hockey, and then they get free pizza afterwards. So they always brought you free pizza whenever you go.
I can't believe this place. I'm having a look at it now. It's so small.
Oh, there's
no seats. Yeah. What?
No, it was probably the most fun venue for ASU sports while I was there. Just because it would always be full. And ASU hockey even made the NCAA tournament my freshman or sophomore year. Yeah. So they were good, playing good teams. It was fun. But.
Okay. I wouldn't mind going to a hockey game. I want to go to a few more basketball games, I think. I've been to a Phoenix Suns game.
I was going to say, do you like those?
Yeah, basketball games are fun. I much prefer watching it live than on TV. I get a bit bored on TV, but live it's fun. There's a bit more momentum to it.
The atmosphere.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing autumn next year rather than summer for my bureau. So I'd like to maybe go to a few Cardinals games as well. But I'm excited for ASU football next year. I'm going to go to all those games.
And I would say the other one that is kind of fun, I don't know if you enjoy it as much, but baseball. The Diamondbacks games aren't necessarily fun to go to, but it's a good day out. They have student tickets, so you can get a ticket for $5. Yeah, $1
They're offering $1 tickets.
It's that bad again.
Yeah.
That was the best thing. My freshman year, the Phoenix Suns were so bad that they'd be doing $5 student tickets.
outrageous.
So you could go and sit on the lower level at the Suns Stadium for $20.
That's so
It
cool.
was so much fun. And then the Diamondbacks have a value food meal, so it's a menu. So it's like $1 hot dog, $1 popcorn, $1 sodas.
It was not like that at the Suns
No,
game.
it
It
is
was like
not.
$18 for a beer or something absurd like that.
Yeah, no. The best Diamondbacks game I went to was the second game of the season last year. Free beer night. Because the opening day, they had a guy whose last name was Beer hit a walk-off home run. And they're like, oh, man, we're hopping on this promotion right now.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be one free beer for everyone over 21 because they had 10,000 beers. I don't even know if there were 10,000 people in the stadium.
Yeah.
So, and all they would do is put a little Sharpie mark on your hand. So you just lick it, go to the bathroom, rub it off, go to a different vendor. I think me and my friends managed to get 8 free beers during a 9-inning game each. So it was an absolute blast.
Apparently they do that. They're going to do that with the Rising games. So
yeah, they used to do dollar beer nights, and then they got rid of dollar beer nights because fans were a little rowdy.
No, so from what I understand, from what I got told, is they got rid of it. Maybe I was. It was at the stadium. The people whose land the stadium was on didn't want them to do that. Oh. So that's part of the reason why they're moving, is that they can do that again. So they're going to start doing that. I'm going to definitely try to go to pretty much every Rising game I can get to. I'm going to try cover them for the Bureau as well. So
that's the one thing I'm disappointed. I did not get to a single Rising game while I was there for 4 years. It just schedule never lined up, or I never had the interest in going that much. But
light rail it.
Perfect. Yeah, I think it will. I think it'll be fun. I mean, because originally their stadium was kind of in Tempe, but off to one of the highway sides, away from the light rail, and then they moved to Chandler, which is like nowhere near a light rail, so it didn't go to any of that. But it'll be. They sounded fun. Their game sounded like a good time. They have a good crowd and everything.
Huge game versus Albuquerque, apparently. I think Albuquerque. They said my friend said a team from New Mexico is their big rival.
Albuquerque. So. I think it's Albuquerque or. It's either Albuquerque or Santa Fe. It's one or the other. Then apparently they have a big rivalry with Vegas, whether it's not like the Vegas fans. Just somehow Phoenix Rising Twitter always loves when it's the Vegas week. But that's what, at least from what I've seen of friends who've covered them. But I don't know. Is there anything else you want to quickly discuss before we head out?
Don't think there was anything else on my mind. I think we got everything.
Yeah, sounds like it. Well, have a great rest of your week, everybody. It's Thursday today. Check out all of our other stuff for Vendetta. You can reach out to Will on Twitter at Will Scott Sports. You can reach out to me with two T's. And you can reach out to me at Jerry F007. And just check out all of our other stuff. The two of us are going to be doing a Premier League podcast. We have these daily shows every day of the week, whether it's us or any of our other Vendetta Sports colleagues. Check out all our stuff on here. Check out our stuff on the Vendetta Sports website. But yeah, that's all from us. Have a good day and see y'all next week.